Right. Extremely sorry. Right. I have a very bad connection today. Anyway, I'm starting it from the beginning. Transaction number one. Transaction number one. The owner has invested 350,000 as capital. What happens? Cash plus 150, capital plus 150. I told you in this accounting equation, equal sign is in here. Right? Now, transaction number two. This should be office equipment. Okay, office equipment, right? So the second one, purchased office equipment valued 200,000 on cash. Now think, as a result of this transaction, right? It affects the minimum of two things. What are they? Office equipment plus 200,000. One asset increases while the cash is decreased by 200,000. So I can remember most of you have answered these two transactions correctly. Transaction number three. Obtain a bank loan valued 150,000. Now think critically. What happens? When a business obtains a bank loan, the business receives cash. So the balance of cash is increased by 150,000. Now what else? As a result of this transaction, what else would increase? Remember, it increases an external liability called bank loan by 150,000. Right? Yes, very good, Sanuka. Right. Transaction number four. Number four. Right? Purchase goods on credit 40,000. On credit. Last week, in the last week's tutorial, I told you credit purchases creates a liability called creditors. It is a liability. Now what happens as a result of this transaction? Inventory plus 40,000. Nothing happens to cash. Remember that very carefully. It is a credit purchase. And creditors increased by 40,000. Got the idea? Number five. Sold goods value 20,000 for 35,000 on credit. Sold goods valued how much? 20,000. Inventory minus 20,000. For 35,000 on credit. Now this is a credit sale. Last week you are. Credit purchases generates a liability, while credit sales generates an asset called debtors, which is increased by 35,000. And on the other hand, as we have sold inventory worth 20,000 for 35, the business has generated a profit. And that belongs to the owner. Therefore, I have to add that to the capital 15,000. Do you see this? Right? Nehemiah. Number six. Number six. Paid 15,000 to creditors. I can remember some have faced a problem. It's very simple. Listen to me. Now, I told you, right? I told you, when a business purchases goods on credit, okay, it generates a liability called creditors. And I told you, this creditor is a liability. Liability. Okay. And if you can remember the definition of a liability, I'm going to make a definition which I introduced to you in the in the fourth competence, introduction to accounting. I told you, when you settle a liability, there will be an outflow of resources. Okay, resources of the business, right? Now, as a result of this transaction, we have to settle a creditor. We have to settle a creditor, right? That means as a result of this transaction, there should be an outflow of resources. As we settle the creditor, when you settle the creditor, you have to understand the balance of the creditor decreases. A liability decreases. It is something like this, right? You have obtained a loan from your friend. Let's say 100 rupees. You have settled 50, right? That means, right, for you, it decreases the liability. And not only that, as a result of this transaction, it decreases a resource. And that resource is cash. So the impact is this: creditors minus and cash minus. Simple, right? Hari, let's move to, right, the worksheet again. Now, what is it, Puta? Transaction number 6. Paid 15,000 creditors. Cash minus 15,000. Because resources, assets decreases. Additions, I think, creditors minus 15,000. See, equation is tallied. Equation is tallied. Now, number 7. Number 7. Received 20,000 from debtors. Same thing. This time, debtors settle the business. How much do they pay? 20,000. So that settlement should be deducted from debtors. Debtors decrease by 20,000, and what happens? The debtors made the settlement in cash. Cash plus 20,000. Hondata practice karana me transactions. Debtors adu wenawa, cash වැඩි වෙනවා. Okay, Buddha? Good. Let's move to the next one. Number 8. Number 8. Paid 6,000 as the telephone bill of the business. This payment is made in cash. Cash minus 6,000. Okay. Cash adu. And do you know, telephone bill of the business, Pute, it is an expense for the business. Therefore, it is decreased from the equity, 6,000 deducted from the equity. Got it? Good. Number 9. The owner invested 20,000 as additional capital. Right? Puta, now think, make a practical hidden. Right? Apart from the initial capital, the owner has invested another 20,000 as additional capital. What happens in the business? Cash plus 20,000. And that it increases the equity of the business plus 20,000 here. Hamma velavema hondata kalpana karana. Right? When there is a paper, when there is a question, think about that question critically. Right? Good. Let's move to the next transaction. In fact, the last one. Last transaction. Settle 20,000 to the bank loan. Can you remember? We obtain a bank loan in here. Right? When we obtain the bank loan, cash increases and the liability called bank loan increases. Now we settle the bank loan. Right? Think. What happens? Cash minus 25,000. Cash adu. While the liability, bank loan, is also decreased. Okay. Therefore, this is how you record the transactions in activity number 21. Let's take the closing balances. A balances tick up. Right? Good. These are the totals, additions. I can remember some of you have done it really nicely. So the total assets 529,000, total liability and equity is also 529,000. So they have asked the non-current assets. Non-current assets. These are the non-current assets of the business, right? Non-current assets, 200,000. Current assets. These are the current assets. The total of the current assets is Pute 329,000. These are the non-current assets. Sorry, these are the current assets. Current assets. Inventory, debtors, cash, right? The value is 329,000. Check your answers, please. This 125,000 is recognized as a non-current liability. This is a non-current liability, balance of the non-current liabilities. 25,000. This is the current liabilities at the end of the month. And the equity, right, stands at 379,000. If you want the information in detail, right, non-current assets, 200,000, current assets, 329,000, non-current liabilities, 125,000, current liabilities, 25,000, and equity, 379,000. Good. Let's move to the next activity, question number 29. Sorry, question number 22. 22. This one. Right? Man dekka samahar lamai දීපු පරක්කුවටම උත්තරේ වෙලා තිබ්බා. So highly appreciate your commitment. ඔන්නෝව තමයි පුතා ඉස්සරහට අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ. හරි? Right. So there are 10 transactions once again. Now this time we have 5 assets. එකක් තිබ්බා මෙන්න මෙහෙම නේද පුතේ? පුතේ මෙන්න මේක හදාගන්න පුතේ. This should be not office equipment, furniture. Furniture, 80,000 on cash. Okay, good. Let's move to the Excel sheet. I'm starting with the point of preparing the format. Here we have 5 assets, 1 equity and 2 liabilities, right? So accordingly, this I have to draw the table. There are 5 assets, 1 equity and 2 liabilities, right? Here we go. Number 5 assets and equity, right Puta? Equity hamon balangin. And we have 2 liabilities. And these are the names, right, of the assets we have been given. Assets. What are they? We have furniture, then computer, inventory, debtors, cash. Then we bhagata avputa puluwan tarang ikmanta format ada ganna. So practice it. And we have equity, that is capital. And liabilities we have bank loan and creditors. Right, creditors. Again, we have 10 transactions, 2, 4, 8, 10, and 1 to record the total. Sorry. Right? Okay. Now, this is how I draw the format for activity number 22. See how simple it is. Here, I record the transactions. Let's start with the first one. Transaction number 1. Pradeepa, the owner, introduced 200,000 as capital. Transaction 1. transaction number 1, right? Now what happens to that? Cash plus 200,000, while equity plus 200. Once again, children, always remember you have to use the plus sign. Plus sign එක තියෙනවද කියලා හැම වෙලේම බලන්න. Plus and minus signs. Number 2, purchased furniture valued 80,000 on cash. Check your answers. Furniture plus 80 and cash minus 80. 80. Okay. Transaction number 3. Purchased goods valued 40,000 on cash. Homework මම පොඩ්ඩක් ඉක්මනට කරනවා. හරිද? Inventory plus 40. One asset increases. Now, it was purchased on cash, no? Cash is decreased by 40,000. දැක්කද පුතා? Transaction number 4. Look at this. The owner invested his personal computer valued 120,000 as capital. Right again, the owner has introduced additional capital during the period. Computer plus 120 and capital plus 120. See? Transaction number 5. Sold goods valued 30,000 for 50,000 on cash. Inventory minus 30. One asset decreases. It's a cash sale. So the balance of cash is increased by 50,000. Don't forget, the business has generated a profit here. How much is the profit? 20,000. That belongs to the owner. Add that to the capital. Puta, this is a subject where you can't learn by heart. Not like the other subjects, right? I mean, accounting part, business studies, of course, that you can learn by heart. But this one, when you make accounting, right? Don't ever learn it by heart. You can't do it. That is not practical. Number 6, purchase goods valued 40,000 on credit. Inventory plus 40. Once you see this on credit, think. Now, what I've told you, sir told me, credit purchases doesn't change the balance of cash, but it increases a liability called creditors, which is increased by 40,000 rupees. Got it? Good. Number 7. Sorry, transaction number 7. Obtain a bank loan valued 50,000. Something, right, which is useful, right, used to us, right? Cash plus 50 and bank loan plus 50. Number 8, sold goods value 40,000 for 60,000 on credit. Inventory minus 40. Remember, it is a credit sale which increases the debtors by 60,000. Now we have a profit worth 20,000, which is added to the balance of capital. Number 9, paid 15,000 as electricity bill of the business. Right, think. The business has paid an expense of the business in cash. That is how to analyze it. Business has paid an expense in cash. That decreases the cash by 15,000. And it is an expense of the business, which decreases equity. Simple, right? Transaction number 10. Paid 20,000 to creditors. I told you this. Cash minus 20, while the creditors is decreased by 20. දැක්කද? බලන්න පුතා මට පොඩි වෙලාවක් නේද ගියේ කරන්න ගන්න. You also have to do the same thing, same practice. It is very simple, right? This is not hard as science or maths. right? Puta, let's get the closing balances. Check your answers, please. This is how the balancer stands, right? At the end of the period, right? Again, we have to answer the same set of questions. Non-current assets. This time we have two non-current assets. These are the non-current assets we have. How much? 200,000. Both furniture and computer are recognized as non-current assets. Current assets. Inventory, the balance of inventory, debtors and cash. Right? It is 215,000 current assets. Right? Then the next question is to recognize the equity. Equity, here we have been given with equity, that is 345,000. Right, Puta? Then non-current liability. Non-current liability, right? That is 50,000. Non-current liability, 50,000. Finally, current liabilities, 20,000. Right? Assets equals to equity plus liabilities. You have the full screen answer. මේවත් වැඩදනේ. මං කියවනේ පුතා හැමෝට මේ පාස් එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන් සබ්ජෙක්ට් එකක් මේක. I'll teach this to you in the best way I can. So practice these questions. I forgot to tell you. We are starting, right? Not for you. The online class is, right, continued as usual, right? But I'm starting a physical class in Murtu, right? If you have your friends, please inform them that we are starting the online class tomorrow, right? At 3 p.m. Okay, so inform them and remember the online class is continued as usual. This will be continued. Don't be afraid. I will never stop the online class. Although, right, I have started a physical class, I'll never stop this. Right? So I'm going to give you the equal priority to both physical and online classes. Right? So don't be afraid. This class will never be stopped. Okay, good. So, right, please inform your friends. We are starting from the first lesson, but it is going to be a speed class, right? You can understand it. So within 3 to 4 months, I have to take you to the parallel to this class, right? So it is going to be a speed class, right? Inform your friends. And let's move to session 4 tutorial, number 4. Puta, give me a minute. Competency 5, session 4. Right, here we have it. Session 4. Then wanna make it chuti venaskam wagයක් තියෙනවා. I have given you the format also. Putala, give me a minute. Right. Okay. Activity number 23. 23. මම මේකත් අඳින තැන ඉඳලම පෙන්නනවා. Right? So what are the components we have to use? Right? So පුතා, next week we are completing this lesson. අපි මේ සතිය ලබන සතිය මේ පාඩම ඉවර කරනවා. Right? So then we can move to right, මම කියවන්නේ දැන් ඉක්මනට පොඩ්ඩක් කරන්න ඕන. Right? You have to take the advantage of this online class. Right? So we are going to complete the syllabus as soon as possible because, right, it is a challenge to complete 12 competencies, right, in a subject like this within 1 year. So once again, please go through the recorded sessions whenever you get time and equip with the correct knowledge. So here there are 5 assets, as you can see, 2 liabilities and 1 equity. Okay, good. Let me show you how to draw the table. Once again, there are 5 assets, 2 liabilities and 1 equity. 5 assets, 2 liabilities and 1 equity. Right? 5 assets, 2 liabilities, and 1 equity. Here we go. Number, assets, liabilities, equity. The assets are as follows, Puta. Assets are lam karana me vidiyata. These are we group the assets. We have office equipment, furniture, inventory, debtors, and cash. Right? These are the assets we have. Liabilities, as usual, bank loan, creditors, and capital. Right? Again, Puta, we have this time they have given the date. Right? I think there are how many days? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 transactions. 12 transactions, and we have to get the closing balance as well. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 1 column to get the total. This is how you draw the table. Harida, Harida, right. Now at the end of the month, you have to get the total also. So I'm going to complete the accounting equation like this. Right? Good. First date, 1st of May. Read it very carefully. What the owner has done? The owner invested office equipment and cash. The owner has invested, right? Office equipment and cash valued 240,000 and 60,000 respectively as capital. Now what happens? The owner has invested capital in 2 forms. One is office equipment plus 240,000. The owner has invested office equipment worth 240. So plus 240 to the office equipment. Apart from that, he has invested 60,000 valued cash. Now who can tell me how much we should record here? කාටරි ළමයිට කියන්න පුළුවන්. අද ටෙන්ඩන්ස් ටිකක් හොඳයිනේ. ආදේශ දිනෙත් දුනිති ජනිතු. Anyone, what is the total capital introduced by the owner? Missions hari, ආදේශ hari, අනිත් අය දුනිති. ජනිතු, අශේන් very good. විබු, මට තේරෙනවද මම මේ කියන්නේ? දිනෙත් very good. The owner has invested capital worth 300,000. So it should be plus 300,000. Exactly. Niyamai. Then we give mummy prashnak. Make it uttara. Do you ever think? Now hereafter you have to write. You have to remember this whenever you get into this particular subject. You have to remember this. Puta. The owner can invest capital, right, in different forms. First one is this. He can introduce capital in cash. Salli වලින් introduce කරනවා. Second is he can introduce capital in any other assets. අපි කියමුකෝ මෙහෙම non-current assets. Office equipment, a land, a building, a motor vehicle, right? Sometimes a computer, equipment. And do you know, there are 2 other methods. The owner can introduce capital either in cash or non-current assets. Got it? Right, Putala? I'm taking you to the next transaction. Transaction number 2. Purchase goods on cash. The date is 3rd of May. Now, when the date is given, you have to use the date. You have to use the date. Okay. 3rd of May. Purchase goods on cash 40,000. Inventory plus 40. It was purchased on cash now. Cash minus 40. Simple. Next date, 6th of May. Put the date. Obtain a bank loan valued 80,000. Adat mang homework dinu. Right? Mang dekkai danan godak kayamata uttara ewala tibuna. ඒත් කීප දෙනෙක් එවලා තිබෙන්නේ. Now it is up to you children. Once again, if parents are listening, right? Now this is an online class, right? So this is how I think you can understand. This is one method of advanced education, because in most of the countries, this is what happens, right? So it is better, right, that we got this type of a right, there are positive side in every disaster. So we have started these online classes, right, because of this COVID-19 pandemic. So I recognize this as an opportunity for the children. So remember, we have to, right, get the advanced education all the time. So take the positive side of it. And dear parents, if you all are listening, please check whether your child is doing the homework and send it to me for corrections. Okay, good. The transaction on 6th May, obtain a bank loan valued 80,000. Cash plus 80. Right, what happens? Don't forget, you can't just put one entry and wait. No, then equation is not tallied. Plus 80,000 to the bank loan as well. Okay, good. Next one, 9th of May. Purchased furniture value 50,000 on cash. Furniture plus 50. Cash minus 50. Always use the plus and minus signs where necessary. I told you, as I'm using a software, the plus sign is not supporting here, but in your manual answers, the plus sign is compulsory. Those are watching the recorded session, please make sure that you have put the plus sign where necessary. Next is 14th of May. Sold goods valued 20,000 for 50,000 on cash. Inventory minus 20. Cash. The business receives cash worth 50,000. It is obvious that the business has generated a profit worth how much? 30,000. And that belongs to the owner. In other words, that increases the equity of the business worth 30,000. Equity by 30,000. Simple, right? Next one, 17th of May. Purchase goods valued 50,000 on credit. Inventory plus 50, but remember, this time cash, the balance of cash is not going to be both. It is not going to be changed since it is a credit purchase. Now remember what I've told you. Credit purchases increases liabilities by, right, liabilities called creditors. The value is 50,000. Next is, right, 19th May. Next date, 19th of May. Pay the rent of the business 6,000. Cash minus 6. Because it is paid in cash. There is a cash outflow. And this is recognized as an expense. You know, expenses affects negatively on the equity. So equity is decreased by 6,000 rupees. Next is 22nd of May. Paid 15,000 to creditors. Cash minus 15,000. I told you this 6,000 is an expense. Make expense. But what about this payment? Here also the cash is decreased. Do you see? But this deduction is not an expense. Make expense. So remember, every cash outflow is not an expense. I can provide two more examples. Here we have a minus 40,000. Have we recognized this as an expense? Make expense? No. How do I say that it is not an expense? If this is an expense, I could have deducted it from capital equity, but I haven't. So this is a payment, but it is not an expense. This is also a payment, even that is not an expense. This is a payment and it is an expense. Once again, this one is also a payment in cash, but even that is not an expense. It's a settlement of a liability. Do you see this? So what I've told you, every payment is not an expense. Listen to me. Salli aduwane හැම වෙලාවෙම මේක expense වෙන්නේ නේ. Because there are some other payments. We are discussing about that in detail when we get to the next lesson. Double entry system. Right? After the date, 22nd, it is 24th of May. Sold goods valued 20,000 for 40,000 on credit. Read the entire transaction before you record it. Puta, this time it is a credit sale. Cost of the goods sold is 20,000. The value of the sale is, it's a credit sale that increases the debtors by 40. So we have generated a profit, 20,000, which belongs to the owner. Therefore, the equity of the business is increased by 20,000. Look at the next one. 28th of May. The owner withdrew 10,000 for his personal use. Now take. The owner has taken 10,000 out of the business. Okay. The first impact is that decreases the balance of cash. Cash adwin. And do you know this 10,000 is a drawing? That is deducted from the equity minus 10,000. Cash minus 10. Capital or equity minus 10. But this one is not a drawing. Sorry, this is not an expense. Okay, if you can remember, when I was defining the expense, I told you, any decrease in the equity other than the drawings made by the owner. This is an expense. This 6,000 is an expense, but this is not an expense. Are there? Right. After 28th, 30th of May, received 25,000 from debtors. Cash plus 25. Why? The business has received 25,000 in cash. Now who settles this? Make a dunne kauda? Debtors. Debtors minus 25,000. So simple. The last date is 31st of May. Paid 10,000 as salaries. Cash minus 10,000. It's an expense. It's salaries and expenses deducted from the equity. See. Right. Let's get to the final balances. Balance as at 31st of May. 31st of May. Right? Let's get the final balances. Puta. I think you are right, good in maths. මේ පොඩි maths නේ මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. ඒවා කවුරුත් වරද්ද ගන්න හැම නෑ හොඳද? මේ පොඩි දේවල්. Let's check whether the assets is equal to the liabilities and equity. Total of assets is 439,000. Here also 439,000. හරිද? Right. අපි calculate කරමු. First one, non-current assets. These are the non-current assets. How much is it? 290,000. Current assets. We have three current assets. It is 149,000. These are the current assets. Right? And then, equity. Equity 324,000. Equity 324,000. Then non-current liabilities, right? We have one non-current liability that is 80,000. And we have current liabilities 35,000. Current liabilities 35,000. Here we have the final answer. The difference was this. Here I have given you the dates. Date. Otherwise, you can put the number. Okay, good. Right. Let's move to the next one. Let me take you to the question. In this question number 24, do you see we have been given with some balances? So probably all other businesses that we discussed previously, they have been started in the period itself, in the beginning of this particular period. But this one is not. Why? Because in Sumana series business, we have some balances already existed. The balances forget the okay. Then you have been given with these types of balances. And these are the balances in the beginning. Now, they have been extracted as at 1st of October 2021. So, after recording these balances, we have to record the impact of these transactions. Today, in this format of the question, make it because in all other questions there were no opening balances, but here we have a set of opening balances to be considered. Therefore, children, please concentrate how I'm going to make the recording. Today, let me share the screen. So here we have how many assets? There are 4 assets, 1 equity, and 2 liabilities. Right? Look what I'm going to do. There are 4 assets, 2 liabilities, and 1 equity. So I'm going to draw the format like this. Number. I'm going to record the 4 assets first. Assets. Then equity. After that, 2 liabilities. Right, Putala? Then Balaga. The format is given to you once again, Puta. Don't get deceived. In term test, you will never get the right format. But in order to save time in the class, I'm going to do that. Harida Pute. Palani. First asset is office equipment. Office equipment. Then we have inventory, debtors, cash. These are the 4 assets we have. Then we have capital as the equity, bank loan, finally the creditors. Then මේ වගේ අපු පළවෙනි ගාන හොඳට බලන් ඉන්න. පුතා, there are 10 transactions, but don't forget there are opening balances. Opening balances team. And at the end of the question, we have to get the closing balances too. Therefore, this I'm going to draw the table. Opening balance to record one row to record the opening balance, then 10 rows to record the transactions. 2, 4, 8, 6, 8, 10, and another row to record the balance. Altogether, there should be 12 rows. Rows 12ක් තියෙනවනේ පුතේ මේක කරන්න. Do you know the reason? Let me tell you. Because at the top we have record the balance as at 1st of October. We have to record it first. Then you can record the balances, transactions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And it is ended with the balance as at 31st of October. When there are opening balances, start with them. Huh? Very simple. Right. Now, let me record the opening balances available. Balagan. We have office equipment as at this date. As at this date. I'm highlight. As at this date, we have some balances. Don't put plus signs there, not required. Okay. 220 office equipment. Inventory balance 60,000. Debtors 75,000. Opening balances. All these are opening balances. Cash 45. Accordingly, assets in the beginning is 400,000. Addition of assets in the beginning. Capital. Opening capital 250,000. And there is a bank loan worth 100,000 in the beginning of the month. Don't use plus signs when you record the balances, because all these are positive balances. And creditors 50,000. See, in the beginning, the addition of the equity and the liabilities is also exactly 400,000. That has to be satisfied in the beginning. Good. Now let's record the transactions. To these balances, we have to do the additions and deductions where necessary. Transaction 1. Purchase goods valued 40,000 on cash. Inventory plus 40. Simple, right? Cash minus 40. Received 30,000 from debtors. Now think. Debtors labata salli. Debtors minus 30. Cash plus 30. Once again, use the plus sign. Number 3. Sold an inventory valued 30,000 for 50,000 on cash. Inventory minus 30. Ek asset ekak adu wenawa 30,000. And cash is increased by 40,000. Sorry, 50,000. 50,000. Which has generated a profit worth 20,000. Which should be added to the equity plus 20 to the equity. Right? Number 4, Dion introduced 100,000 as capital. Once again, cash plus 100,000, capital plus 100,000. Use the plus sign. Use the plus sign. Number 5, purchased goods valued 40,000 on credit. Inventory minus 40. Sorry, minus. Inventory plus 40. Inventory increases, but cash doesn't change. But it increases a liability called creditors by 40,000. Let's see another bit. Okay. 6. Paid rupees 45,000 to creditors. A cash payment. A cash payment. Cash is decreased by 45. Agreed? And this payment is made a settlement to creditors. So creditors is decreased by 45. Always check the agreement of the right accounting equation. දැන් එක කරන්න පුතා. ඕනම ළමෙක්ට එක කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක්. Right? Good. Number 7. Paid salaries and wages 10,000. Cash minus 10,000. Cash outflow. And it is an expense. Make expense එකක්. That is deducted from the equity since this payment is expense. Okay, good. Number 8. Sold goods valued 20,000 for 40,000 on credit. Inventory minus 20,000. It's a credit sale. I repeat, it's a credit sale. There is no involvement of cash, but that increases the debtors by 40,000. We have a profit. And that is added to the capital or equity. So I'm going to add the difference 20,000 since it is the profit to the capital. It's a very beautiful subject, right? Apart from its beauty, it's a useful subject to you. Number 9. The owner withdrew 12,000 for his personal use. Cash minus 12,000, right? And it's a drawing. I told you, this is not an expense. It's a drawing. But drawing is also decreased from the equity. Remember that. Okay. Last one. Paid 15,000 to the bank loan. Cash minus 15,000. Bank loan minus 15,000. Let's get the closing balance. I mean the sum addition. Right? Is there a question? No. Sanuk, I told you, you don't want to put the plus signs for the balances. Not required, Sanuk. Take an addition. If they are the balances, don't use plus signs here. Better plus signs done in it. Okay? Just record the balance like that. And you can't use the plus sign even at the closing balances. Now remember, the plus sign minus signs are used, right, to show what has happened as a result of the given transactions. Not in the opening or closing balances. Right. Let's get the closing balances. Right. Let's check the answers. Closing assets, 498,000. Equity and liabilities, 498,000. Right. Now let's get the answer. Non-current assets. We have only one non-current asset. Right? That is 220. Complete your answers. Then we have current assets. Here we have the current assets. It is 278,000. Right? Equity 368,000. Equity 368,000. Okay. Non-current liabilities. We have only one non-current liability here. Right? Let me change the color. It is 85,000. And finally, the current liabilities, right? And the closing balance is 45,000. Here we have the final answer. කොහොමද? දෙවල් අදවසට මම ගණන් පහක් හැදුව ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක්ක. පොඩි වෙලාවයි. So that is what I told you. This is the plus side of, right, the using of the technology, right? So children, please take out your tutorials and mark activity number 25 as a homework. There are, you have been given with the opening balances. You know what to do now. There are 10 transactions, right? And after that, you have to get the closing balances. Okay, good. Now, I'll be uploading this video tonight, and I'll be sharing it by tomorrow morning. You can watch it throughout the month of, right, May. Right, you all are invited to watch it. And remember, children, we are starting another. It's a challenge for me because I have to cover up the syllabus. Right, I'm referring to the paper class. Sorry, the physical class now. Now we have already reached the middle of 5th month. Masa pahak ivar. Tamasa hatai tiyen. Mam kohomari karno. For you, there is no problem regarding the completion of the right syllabus. But for others, if you have a friend who is finding it difficult, right, who is finding difficult to understand this subject, please inform them. You can recommend myself. Don't be afraid. I will never let, right, anyone write down. But I need his commitment too, right? So listen to me. If you have any friends, right, please inform them that we are starting a physical class in Moratuwa. We are starting it from, right, the first point, first thing, basic thing. But it will be a speed class, right, Puta? Then that's all for today. Until we meet again on next week. Stay safe. God bless you. Good night. Okay, Dishans. Okay, Puta. Okay. God bless.